The year is 1879. South Africa becomes the stage of one of the most brutal and controversial colonial wars of the 19th century. On one side, the British Empire, armed with guns, cannons, and imperial ambition. On the other, the Zulu Kingdom, united, disciplined, and proud. In this video, we'll cover 4 pivotal battles that shaped the outcome of the war. You'll witness how the brave Zulus nearly broke the British Empire, and how the Empire struck back, destroying a nation. After the humiliating defeat at Isandlwana, the British were desperate for a victory. General Evelyn Wood, commanding the left column, decided to strike Zulu cattle reserves near Khlobane mountain. Early in the morning, a force of 700 British troops and about 300 African allies climbed onto the plateau. They burned villages, seized cattle, but soon it became clear it was a trap. From the summit, they spotted the main Zulu army, over 20,000 warriors, advancing from the valley. The British were surrounded, trapped on the heights. Descending meant exposing themselves to attack. Captain Barton's rearguard fought to the death. It was a desperate fight for survival. Dozens died, hundreds were wounded or missing. Wood barely escaped. Khlobane was a humiliating blow, but Wood had a chance to strike back the very next day. The next day, the Zulus attacked the British camp at Kambula, but this wasn't a chaotic ambush. It was a well-prepared defense with artillery, flanking redoubts, and inner defensive rings. Inside the camp, about 2,000 British troops. Against the minus 20,000 Zulus, fresh from victory. The attack began around noon. Wave after wave crashed into the redoubts. The Zulus used their classic horns of the bull formation, a central frontal assault with flanking arms. The main force, or chest, engaged the enemy head-on, drawing their focus and fire. Meanwhile, the horns swept wide and encircled from both flanks, aiming to cut off escape routes and crush the opposition in a pincer movement. This time-tested tactic, deeply rooted in Zulu military tradition, under shocker, was both swift and brutal, maximizing mobility, surprise, and psychological pressure on the slower, linear British formations. But artillery and dense rifle fire broke the momentum. The British held firm, then launched a counterattack. By evening, the Zulu army was in retreat. About 2,000 Zulus lay dead. British losses were only around 30. It was the first decisive British victory of the war. Kambula was a turning point. For the first time, the Zulu army lost its fighting spirit. Their invincibility was shattered. While Wood celebrated victory, General Chelmsford moved toward Eshowe to relieve a besieged garrison. Chelmsford had a relief force of 400 men from HMS Shah, 200 from Boadicea, with a couple of Gatling guns, along with the 57th Regiment of Foot, the 97th Highlanders, the 60th Rifles, the Natal Native Contingent, and the mounted force commanded by Major Barrow. The column comprised 3,390 Europeans and 2,280 Africans to 9-pounder guns for 24-pounder rocket tubes and to Gatling guns. Advancing cautiously through difficult terrain, his column built fortified loggers each night, wary of Zulu ambushes. On March 29th, Chelmsford began the relief operation, crossing the Tugela River with a lightly equipped force. Despite traveling without baggage or tents, progress was slow due to flooded rivers and nightly rains. To avoid ambush, Chelmsford chose a route east of Pearson's Path and ensured strong camp defences each night, mindful of the Isandlwana disaster. By April 1st, Pearson's men at Eshowe could see the relief column encamping on the southern bank of the Inyazane River, on a 300-foot ridge west of the 470-foot Umisi Hill. On the morning of April 2, 1879, near the village of Gingindlovu, the Zulu army launched a fierce assault on the British encampment. The Zulu impi advanced, splitting into two columns before crossing the Inyazane River and forming the classic chest and horns formation. The left horn curved sharply to strike the camp's northeast corner, while the chest moved toward the northern side. Another force passed Umisi Hill to form the right horn of the attack. Chelmsford's men, arranged in a square formation, with Gatling guns at the corners, repelled wave after wave of Zulu warriors. The Zulu Bull's Head formation attacked three sides of the camp, just as Chelmsford had anticipated. At 300 to 400 yards, British infantry opened fire, backed by Gatling guns and rockets. Zulu marksmen caused minor losses, but the defenders held them off. Despite repeated charges, the Zulus lacked the drive shown at Isandlwana and Rorke's Drift. Exhausted and facing overwhelming firepower, their attacks faltered. By 7 a.m., the attack stalled. Chelmsford ordered a cavalry charge, joined by colonial forces and naval troops. Many Zulus were killed in the retreat, though some fought back fiercely. The battle ended in a clear British victory, lifting the siege of Isho shortly afterward. Though Chelmsford had redeemed some of his reputation after the disaster at Isandlwana, the war was far from over. It was the third consecutive British victory, and the Empire was ready for the final blow. After the Battle of Gingindlovu, throughout April and May, the British had been maneuvering back and forth, particularly in matters of supply and transport. The final expedition began in June. The objective was Ulundi, the Zulu capital and a powerful symbol of their independence. Chelmsford led a combined force of over 5,000 men, including infantry, cavalry, engineering units, 10 field guns, and to rapid-firing Gatling guns, a new weapon designed to break the Zulu resistance. This was the decisive campaign. The British aimed to deliver a final blow and end the war on their terms. On July 3rd, after failed negotiations, Colonel Buller led a cavalry patrol across the river for reconnaissance. Spotting Zulus near the Khlobane stream, the troops moved to surround them. Buller sensed danger and ordered his men to halt and prepare to fire, just as 3,000 Zulus rose from the tall grass and attacked. After brief fighting and casualties, the British withdrew under covering fire. This confirmed to Chelmsford that the Zulus were ready for battle. That evening, he issued orders for a dawn attack. British troops formed a large hollow square, not using wagons or trenches, determined to fight the Zulus in open terrain. By 7:30 a.m. on July 4th, the British square, made up of over 5,000 men, artillery, Gatling guns, cavalry, and supply wagons, was in position. As soon as Zulu regiments emerged in a crescent formation around them, the British opened fire from 2,000 yards. The Zulus charged into a deadly storm of rifle volleys, Gatling fire, and shell blasts. More than 15,000 warriors, again using the bull's horn tactics. But the British square stood firm. Against them was the Zulu army, commanded by King Cetshwayo himself. Waves of attackers were mown down by rifle fire, cannon, and Gatling guns. None broke through. The battlefield became a killing ground, littered with Zulu warriors who were charged with fearless resolve. Still, they came shouting war cries, brandishing spears, but each assault met a wall of lead. As the sun rose higher, the attacks waned. When the Zulu reserves surged forward in one last desperate assault, their determination was undeniable, but it wasn't enough. The British lines held firm. Gunfire tore through the ranks of warriors, and once again, they were repelled with devastating losses. The final charge had failed. After an hour, the Zulus broke and retreated. The battlefield fell silent, save for the moans of the wounded and the distant echoes of war. Chelmsford ordered the cavalry to mount and pursue. British horsemen scattered the fleeing Zulus, though they faced an ambush near the stream. The battle ended in a crushing British victory at Ulundi, the final major engagement of the Anglo-Zulu War. British troops entered Ulundi and set the capital on fire. King Khetshwe fled. This marked the end of the independent Zulu Kingdom. It was divided into 13 puppet chiefdoms. But the spirit of Zulu resistance would live on in history. The Anglo-Zulu War was a lesson for both sides. For the Empire, a warning about arrogance. For the Zulus, a tragedy, but also a testament to their resilience,